Sucker Punch. It's not just a 13-year-old's daydream. There's literally a review online called Sucker Punch, a 13-year-old's daydream. Hey, what's up, you guys? Imperial Nick here.
And I'm Lumberjack Nick.
And we are finally back together after our video on Harry Potter and last week's video on A Christmas Story. I will link the Christmas Story video up there. And today we are talking about Sucker Punch and why it's a fantastic movie, even though someone on the internet decided it's a 13-year-old boy's daydream of a movie, which is ridiculous. So as you're joining us today, please excuse myself and my fancy notebook with all of my video points on it. It's not as easy talking about movies as it is talking about cameras because, well, people are real sticklers about actors' names, apparently.
I have digital notes.
So his phone,
Fancy.
my notebook, I'm kind of old school like that, but I still shoot film, So basically, we are going to kind of go over what makes Sucker Punch a fantastic movie. We don't even have to review it. It's a good movie. If you don't believe us, go watch it. And if you still don't like it, leave a comment. We'll debate you. No issue debating you on that. So like we did in my secondhand lines video, which I will link right up there, I am going to discuss the actors' choices, and some of their filmography to give you an idea of the kind of people that are in this movie that represent the characters that we are watching on screen. So I don't consider her the main character as so much. I feel like she's a secondary character to Sweet Pea, but we're going to start off with Baby Doll. She's the catalyst of the story. Baby Doll is played by Emily Browning. She was the creepy little ghost girl in Ghost Ship. She was also the creepy little girl in Darkness Falls. I'm seeing a pattern here. And she was Valerie in Lemony Snicket's with Jim Carrey, which I've only seen once because I don't care for Jim Carrey. Sweet Pea, who we just discussed, is played by Abby Cornish. She was in Limitless, Elizabeth the Golden Age, and Bright Star. I have not seen Bright Star, but I have seen the other two.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Blondie is played by Vanessa Hudgens. She's in High School Musical 3, Band Slam, and Bad Boys for Life, which all the Bad Boys movies are good. I don't care what you say about
Michael Bay.
And Bad Boys for Life, which is a great movie. I like Michael Bay, and we're going to have an entire video on why I like Michael Bay. And it's not just because there's explosions. Actually, you'll get a kick out of this. His cinematics are some of the hardest to reproduce.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't doubt that.
So Nick is going to do Lumberjack.
I'm interested in taking a look at that because it's been really cool, like actually looking at that type of stuff when you're watching a movie.
Oh, absolutely. So Lumberjack Nick is going to have to do a video on Michael Bay's awesome cinematics. But, and then Amber is played by Jamie Chung, who's in Hangover 2, which are both hilarious movies.
Oh, yeah.
I don't care if they're just redos of the first one. It's still funny to me. And she also plays Miho in Sin City, A Dame to Die For. And a lot of people actually didn't like Sin City, A Dame to Die For because it took forever to come out. The visuals on that are amazing. The actors are amazing. It's got a wonderful cast. It's just as good as the first one. You can debate me in the comments on that video when I make it. And then you have Rocket, who is the sister to Sweet Pea, played by Jenna Malone, and she actually has the largest filmography out of all the girls.
Yeah, for sure.
Huge filmography. She was in The Messenger. She was in The Hunger Games 2, 3, and 4. I haven't watched them because I don't like YAs. We've discussed that. And she was also Into the Wild, which is a good movie, but the guy was stupid.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Into the Wild is dumb. And then you have The Wise Men, played by Scott Glenn. And Scott Glenn's actually a really good actor. He has the largest filmography out of all of them. Hands down, all of them. He is an amazing actor. He was in Apocalypse Now, The Right to Stuff, Training Day, and he played Donnie Rums in the movie W, the George W. Bush movie, as well as in the movie Tall Tale from the 90s with like John Henry and Pecos Bill and all of those guys.
Yeah.
And it was all wrapped up together by Zack Snyder, and Zack Snyder's a hit or miss director. This is definitely a hit, but he's done things like 300, Watchmen, and Dawn of the Dead, and I picked those three movies to talk about under the Zack Snyder bullet point for a very particular reason. Zack Snyder has a very particular way of doing visual storytelling, and that's why his movies are hit or miss, because sometimes people are not up for that, depending on the genre. But I'm not a big into visual storytelling, so Nick, I'm going to drop that one on you.
So Sucker Punch has some really interesting things that were done, and I think they kind of sell the movie and make it work, right? So The first thing I was looking at is I was kind of looking at the colors, right? So they do some really interesting things with the colors because I feel like there are pretty much 3 layers to the movie, right? You have the real world, and then you have the baby doll's dream that she's in, where she's in the brothel and, you know, like that type of stuff. And then you have the fantasy world that she goes into, so it's like the 3rd layer. And there's something kind of unique about each one of those in the way that they're shot and the way that they're color graded. So if you look at like all the real world shots, I talked about this in one of my last videos, but all the real world shots are bleach bypass. Which bleach bypass gives you like a really like gritty and like non-welcoming look. And I feel like that is used as a visual storytelling aid to tell you that the real world for her is not a good place.
And really, if the very intro of the movie really brings that together.
Yeah.
Where, and yeah, her mom dying and all that stuff, but what I mean by the intro is actually when the stepfather finds out that the girls are the only ones in the mother's will. And, you know, he's attacking the girls. You know, there's a lot of foreshadowing just in that scene of the entirety of the story. But yeah, no, I always wondered how it looked so, you know, foreboding. Those pieces look so foreboding and so malicious.
Yeah, it's dark. It's shot in like very strong bleach bypass. And it's also not warm. It's like way cool. Like all the colors are cool. So it's very good at showing you, you know, like this is not a good, like it's almost like in a horror film, like how you would shoot something in a horror film. Like that's as far as they took it for that scene.
Oh yeah, and it feels like peak Snyderism. Like this movie is definitely peak Snyderism.
Yeah.
And then the brothel.
Yeah, so the brothel is interesting because like when the girls are at an advantage or they're happy or something nice is happening, like it's pretty brightly lit and the colors are really warm and welcoming, and then as soon as it transitions to something that's not going well for one of them, it gets cool. So for example, like there's the scene where I think Rocket's getting attacked by the chef guy with the knife.
Yeah, that's almost in the very beginning of the movie.
So everything is warm, and then that scene comes and it's cold. And that, I mean, that's something that you only see if you're looking for that, but subconsciously you're like, there's something changed here, you know, like without even, they don't even have to say anything. They just change the colors and they change the look of the scene, and it completely changes in your head, you know.
Oh yeah,
something bad about to happen.
That scene is so much foreshadowing in that scene because of what happens with Rocket and the chef at the end of the movie. And again, you know, I think of the cyberpunk videos that you have that you just released, and I'll link that one right up there. With coloration of cyberpunk, that last mission, the mission that failed, was cyberpunk. It was dystopian. It had those great. So it's like when it all comes together like that, it's super interesting. And I think that along with the visuals, the music, there are so many covers of great songs sung in minor key that just absolutely just bring it all together for the characters. Yeah. With those, especially with those visuals, where, you know, like you were saying, like it's like an Inception inside of a movie before Inception.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. Yeah, because I mean, it's 3 layers to it, you know.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, no, the real world, and especially before she drops into the brothel fantasy, like even in the asylum that she's sent to, it's like whites and cools and blues, and it's got a real.
And then it goes back to that at the end when she's back in the asylum.
That's right, it does. Yeah. Even Blue, the main bad guy.
As far as like when I was going through it, every real world scene, there's no welcoming lighting or colors in any of the real world scenes.
So it's a lot of harsh lighting and a lot of... Yeah. So now that we've talked about the visual storytelling aspect of it, you know, I want to kind of jump into the characters themselves. You know, like you have these characters, you know, you have Baby Doll, you have Rocket, you have Sweet Pea, you have Amber, you know, you have all of these characters that are all, you know, they're all locked in this asylum. They're all dealing with the same crap that Baby Doll is. And Baby Doll, like, creates this little bit of hope, this little glimmer of hope in her escape plan. Because the whole thing is she's trying to escape the asylum before she gets lobotomized, or
Right.
she has her virginity taken in the brothel scenes, of the fantasy. And even then, when she's on the mission, I don't know if she uses it to give herself bravery or what like that, but she drops down to that third level of just straight visual fantasy. Like we're talking like a 12-foot samurai with a minigun.
Yeah.
Steampunk German soldiers in the trenches of World War One. And my absolute favorite, the B-17 shooting at orcs and then dogfighting a dragon.
Yeah.
And so you have all of the, it makes me want more. Like, it really makes you want more. And actually, the end of the movie is very well foreshadowed, and you find out that Baby Doll really isn't the main character. She's not the one that experiences that huge personal growth that I talk about in my videos that's important for a good story. The plot itself is a little bit on the weaker side. Girl goes to asylum, girl wants to escape, girl sacrifices herself for one of her friends. It's a weak plot. But the story itself, the way it's told, visually, audio, and with the characters, is what makes it a strong movie, and not just some 13-year-old's fantasy. And in the end, it turns out Sweet Pea's. Sweet Pea's the one that grows the most. For her entire life, she's been taking care of Rocket, her little sister. She's been following her into all these troubles, and when Rocket finally dies, she's given that freedom to finally escape and to finally leave. And she experiences the most character growth out of all the characters. And I think that's what makes her truly the main character of the movie. But overall, it has a weak plot. But the way the story is told and the story itself, in my opinion, makes it an extremely great movie.
Yeah, and I think that it wouldn't work as well if they didn't use all of the things that we were talking about, because it really does, the colors and the way that things are shot, and we'll talk about how things were shot too, which that's kind of interesting as well, but I think that it really calms the viewer down to give them because if they all had the same colors, things would be weird, if they didn't do all of these things to kind of really sell each idea, and the cinematography behind that does part of that. I feel without you even realizing it, unless you're looking for it. I think if all of that wasn't there, I don't think that with not having the strongest story, I don't know how well it would hold up and retain your attention.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot like Secondhand Lions. Cinematically, Secondhand Lions wasn't really that technical, but the characters and story itself was able to carry that plot. And the characters in Sucker Punch, some of them are weaker. We haven't really talked about Amber or Blondie, and they're there, and they have an interesting character, and they play an important part in the plot. They're not really strong characters. So, your entire characters, your entire group of characters isn't really strong. It's not like Lord of the Rings. Boromir is a really strong character. Aragorn is a really strong character. Frodo's kind of a dummy. Sam is a really strong character. You have a really strong ensemble with their own histories, their own pasts. In Sucker Punch, you have Baby Doll, Sweet Pea, and Rocket. Those are really the only ones that have a really strong history built up within them.
Right, yeah. Some of the other ones, you're not sure.
They're there.
Yeah.
And having 3 strong characters and 2 weak characters, it kind of detracts from that. But I think the visual storytelling and the effects and the soundtrack and just the way it was put together is what makes it a great movie.
Right, yeah. And so one of the other things that I think really helps sell it is the way that it was shot. So the intro sequence, the way that it's shot, it uses a lot of tricks. So you have the camera will go through a door, it hits a keyhole in a door and then it follows through, so it looks like one continuous shot. And the camera kind of follows action, and you get camera angles that are trying to show the viewer something that, you know, like is in the scene, as opposed to just being a wide shot, you know, like they have it framed so there's something specific in the scene. So you get that in the beginning, and then when you go to the brothel, everything is shot really basically. It's like interview style, like totally like straightforward, no camera tricks, no nothing. And then when you get into the fantasy sequences, it's like over the top action shooting. So like one of the scenes that I was watching, when they're fighting the steampunk Nazis, right?
Yeah.
They throw an axe and the camera like flies with the axe and like follows the axe through the air.
That's like some 300 shit right there.
Yeah. It's like over the top like action. And I think that having that differentiation between the way that each individual layer of the movie is shot, I think like really brings you to that point in the movie when you're watching. So having like, if it were just all shot like really basically, or like everything was like an action or something, like I feel like it would be distracting. So I really do think that the movie was definitely aided by the cinematography. Like that's what makes it work as a movie, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. And not every movie needs to be aided by cinematography. I mean, if you look at Doctor Strangelove, that's a really basic interview style movie. It's black and white, it's super basic, there's no color gradings, anything like that. It's super basic, but the characters and story and plot hold it all together. And I think that people should stop judging movies just on one of those merits. You have to look at a movie as an entire thing. So with Sucker Punch, yeah, I hear people say all the time, well, the plot's weak. The plot is weak. The characters, the visuals, and audio make it a great movie. Same with Sin City. Sin City is like the most basic of comic book tropes. It's just grittier, but it's the visuals and the characters that make the movie amazing. And I think that Zack Snyder, when he does it extremely well. And when he
fails,
he fails extremely hard. Because if you're not dependent on story and plot, and you have to have all these other factors involved in order to help carry the movie, if you mess up one of those little factors,
yeah,
you get Superman.
And I feel like they easily could have messed up Sucker Punch, because if one thing was out of whack, it probably wouldn't have worked.
Even something basic like not using the different color in the film would have totally messed up the entirety of the movie.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it needs all those aspects, and it's kind of like a finely tuned rifle. You got your AK-47. I mean, they're stamped together. They're kind of janky.
You can, rattle it, feel the bullets rattle around inside.
It'll go off every time, and it's fine.
Yeah.
Sucker Punch is like an AUG, or a SCAR, or an M16. It's got a lot of moving parts.
About M16. I've heard stories about those.
That's what I'm saying, though. It's like, if you don't maintain it.
Yeah, right.
If it's not properly cared for, you got a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
And with all those moving parts, one thing goes wrong, the whole gun falls apart.
Yeah.
Or like comparing a Swiss watch to one of those digital ones from the 80s. One thing goes wrong in that Swiss watch, it's done. The one from the 80s is still going, and it's been like washed 4 times.
Yeah, right.
So like I said in the beginning of this video, you guys, we're not going to give it a review. It's a good movie. If you don't believe us, go watch it. If you still don't think it's a good movie, debate us in the comments. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification so you know right when we upload. We have 3 uploads a week. I upload on Mondays with my top 5s and my basic reviews.
And I do something on Wednesdays. I haven't decided what it is yet, but it's things.
It's usually really cool cinematic stuff, so go check out that Die Hard video. It's pretty cool. And then Fridays, we're going to try to keep up with this. I start school in January, so we'll have to see how that works out. All my stuff's online, though, so it'll probably be pretty easy to meet up and do these double videos like this. If not, one of us will take over on Friday, on and off, however it needs to go. We're still working out the schedule because we are still a new channel, so help us grow, and we'll catch you guys all on the flip side. Bye!